It's a bit like we're staring at a painting 3 inches from the canvas, and we're seeing all these brushstrokes. Seychelles meeting, back channel with Sergei Kislyak, meeting with Mike Flynn, phone calls with the Russian ambassador, obstructing justice. And we're like, what does this all mean? When all we really need to do is take a step back, and it's quite obvious what this is all telling us. It's collusion. This isn't about politics, this is about crime.
After the 2016 election, the United States intelligence community determined that there were in fact 2 campaigns to elect Donald Trump. One run out of Trump Tower and one run out of the Kremlin.
This week, a nightmare for American democracy.
U.S. intelligence has concluded that Vladimir Putin ordered his military to help Donald Trump win the election.
These 2 campaigns had the same goal, used the same tactics, and had countless meetings with each other. Why so many meetings? What were they talking about? And why did Trump and his team lie about every last one of them? Call it collusion, call it treasonous, whatever you call it. We need to get to the bottom of it.
Every story has a beginning, and the story of Trump and Russia begins with money. In the 1990s, Trump and the Trump Organization are hemorrhaging money, $3.4 billion in debt. Trump is personally liable for $800 million of that. Bankers coin a term, the Donald risk, explaining their aversion to doing business with him, and yet he continues to build. And so the question is how? Who is behind the vast sort of flow of money that's going into his properties and that has sustained him over the years?
After the Soviet Union collapsed, Russian oligarchs amassed huge fortunes by buying up state-owned assets.
Oligarchs, in essence, become an extension of the state.
To shield their fortunes, they began moving their money abroad. One easy destination, New York real estate.
Over the years, the Trump Organization has developed a reputation for not asking too many questions. Trump sees this influx of foreign cash, particularly from Russia, as a way to get back on his feet. But Russian money has not only fueled Trump's comeback from multiple bankruptcies in the 90s, but it also sustained him during the global financial crisis.
While Trump and Russian businessmen were cozying up, Putin becomes president of Russia in 2000 and exerts control of Russia's oligarch class, wielding it as an extension of the state, as Putin works to destabilize Eastern Europe and suppress his domestic rivals. Through spreading a culture of corruption and disinformation to advance Russia's interests, Putin develops a playbook that would later become the basis for Russia's campaign to support Trump in the 2016 election.
For Putin, democracy and freedom is actually dangerous. And when he comes to power in 2000, that really comes to the fore. There's these revolutions that are taking place throughout the former Soviet Union. They call them color revolutions. They're taking place in Ukraine, the Orange Revolution, in Georgia, the Rose Revolution. And so these revolutions are a threat to Putin. He's trying to consolidate power, he's trying to consolidate his control over Russia. So then in 2011, there's a parliamentary election in Russia. It's clearly fraudulent. There's protests on the streets of St. Petersburg and Moscow. Putin believes that the United States must be behind these popular movements. The gloves are off. He wants to hit back at the United States, but he has a problem, that Russia's weak.
To strike back, Putin knew he had to get creative. He dusted off the old KGB playbook and sought to hit the West where it was most vulnerable, its free and open democratic societies.
Donald Trump's businesses are basically dependent on Russian money. So that's something that Vladimir Putin would see instantly. Effectively the perfect chaos agent, the perfect person that they would want to invest in, to bolster, to support. And that's exactly what our own intelligence community says.
And so we need to understand Trump's Russian money and Trump's properties and sort of in parallel to the Kremlin strategy.
Russia's Kremlin-linked oligarchs built ties to Trump. When Trump brought his Miss Universe pageant to Moscow in 2013, this relationship deepened. Trump spent his time in Moscow rubbing elbows with the Russian political and business elites, a number of whom would resurface during the 2016 campaign. When Trump returned from Moscow, he talked glowingly of Vladimir Putin in interviews and speeches.
Are you an admirer of the Russian?
I think he's done really a great job of outsmarting our country.
Putin even sent me a present, beautiful present with a beautiful note. I spoke to all of his people.
This effusive praise continued during the presidential race.
Putin, who is absolutely having a great time. Russia is like, they're really hot stuff.
I've already said he is really very much of a leader.
I will have a very good relationship with Putin.
Trump was the only Republican candidate to take a soft stance on Russia. American intelligence agencies began picking up on Kremlin operatives communicating with Trump's campaign, so had agencies in the UK, Germany, France, Estonia, Australia, and the Netherlands. What's more, as Trump's campaign picked up steam, so did Russia's. In March 2016, as Trump was winning primaries and closing in on the nomination, the Kremlin escalated its efforts. They hacked the email account of Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman. They ramped up their online propaganda efforts on behalf of Trump.
They set up a meeting in Trump Tower, not just with Donald Trump Jr., but with the chairman of the campaign, Paul Manafort, and Jared Kushner, the son-in-law. There's an Ocean's 11 style cast of characters that then come to this meeting on the Russian side. You have the Russian government lawyer, former Russian spy, someone believed to be involved in money laundering. You then have the translator and you have a fixer. All these people attend this meeting, whose sole purpose is to provide dirt about Hillary Clinton. That meeting is collusion. But more importantly, what it really tells us is there was a will on both sides to work together.
Representatives of the two campaigns communicated dozens of times. They discussed sharing information and strategy and mirrored each other's moves. The question now isn't whether they colluded, it's how deep the collusion went.
I think this will be seen as one of the most shocking political scandals, if not the most, in American political history.
So now you know the story. And here's why it matters. It matters that our democracy is still vulnerable to foreign attack. It matters that our commander-in-chief has been compromised by a foreign adversary and our national security is not being prioritized above all else. And it matters that our president is working for his own selfish interests or those of his shady foreign business partners instead of the interests of you and me. Now is the time for Americans to stand up for democracy and the rule of law and demand that the president be held accountable. To find out more and learn what you can do, visit themoscowproject.org or follow The Moscow Project on Twitter.